little while ago, I made a video covering the Interloper web series by YouTuber Anamade. I covered this series because I believed it was an interesting and unnerving ARG that deserved to be watched and theorized about. What I was not anticipating, however, was making a follow-up video this soon. But in the days following the release of my first video, a new batch of releases for this series came out that recontextualizes everything I talked about in that original upload. Needless to say, this is a follow-up to my previous video, and if you haven't watched it, you won't understand a single thing I'm gonna talk about in this video. So if a spooky source engine ARG sounds interesting at all, go ahead and give that first video a watch. I pinky promise it's a good video. In this video, I'll catch you guys up to speed on Interloper while also correcting some previous theories and mistakes I had. And as far as correcting mistakes from my last video, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room. Council. 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 Alright,
I get it!
Console. There, I can pronounce it. Can you guys shut up now? So it's been a while since my previous video on the series, so before we dive into the new material, I'll give you an eensy-weensy recap of the series just to re-jog your memory. Interloper focuses on a set of secret developer console commands that when input in any source game, generate weird demos at random. Some of these are called Type 5 demos and feature NPC characters encountering bizarre entities like the Umbrella Man, who captures the NPCs and drags them out of the Skybox. These dynamic NPCs are part of something called the DM Editor that seems to be a tool for controlling these NPCs, and a Norwegian company called F-Sky is involved in the creation of these dynamic NPCs. That should be enough to jog your memory, so now let's pick up where we left off and dive into episode 5 of Interloper. But before I fully dive into the new material, I have a confession to make. I am the Umbrella Man's biggest fan. I spend every waking moment, night and day, wearing my favorite suit and carrying my umbrella to show my undying love for the character. And this admiration for the Umbrella Man can also extend to the digital world thanks to today's sponsor, Manco Store. Manco Store is an online marketplace for selling and buying items from all of your favorite games like TF2 and CSGO, which means you can secure all the pieces required to assemble that Type 5 drip for prices that are significantly cheaper than the Steam market. The resemblance is uncanny. And you can pay for that drip in any way you like. Crypto, card, PayPal. Just don't use any Thaz tokens. Sorry, FNAF fans. But what if you don't want to use your cash to buy items? Well, lucky for you, you can just sell your dumpy items that you don't want anymore to buy even cooler items. Or just withdraw the funds for real-world cash. And check out this giveaway they're doing for the Burning Flames team captain. This hat is worth almost $12,000. You could buy a car with that money. Actually, you could buy like 3 Overwatch 2 skins with that money. That's how much it's worth. So you better visit Manco Store right now using my link in the description. Or actually better yet, use the mysterious QR code for a luxurious surprise. Or, if you don't, the Umbrella Man will float through your wall and take you to England and force you to eat mushy peas and chips. So you better use my link and cop yourself some cool-ass items. No, wait. What's that sound? I think it's too late. He's already here. Episode 5 starts with the new source engine mystery. We see an old YouTube video from 2006 showing a glitch that requires the player character to input a specific series of button presses, just like a cheat code. All it's missing is one of those late 2000s era jump scares with the Exorcist girl. Move forward, backward, forward again, turn to the right, repeat, turn to the left, jump, turn your flashlight on, press the squad command key, input a random series of actions of your choice, and when you're ready, turn the flashlight off. This code is called a flash nuke, and the effects it has on the game are completely randomized every time it's done. In this old video, inputting the flash nuke code completely distorts the in-game world, with textures distorting beyond the horizon, before the game crashes. In the context of this web series, the flashlight nuke is a well-known urban legend in the Half-Life fanbase, sort of the Bigfoot and GTA of the Half-Life series. However, Anomi boots up Half-Life 2 and disproves the legend by inputting the code themselves, to no results. But like the interlope commands, the flash nuke rabbit hole is deeper than it first seems. Half-Life 2 is a game that has received countless updates since it was first released back in 2005, even getting updated as recently as 2022. So perhaps the Flash Nuke is a relic from older builds of the game. Looking at the HUD of the player in the YouTube video, you can see that this is not the same HUD as the PC version of Half-Life. It's in fact the version used for the original Xbox version of the game, one which Anomi still has.
The Shitbox 360. You can play the original games?
The original Xbox Half-Life 2 hasn't received any of the modern changes the other versions have, and by inputting the Flash Nuke code, it actually works. Flash nuking seems to have a whole assortment of effects on the in-game world, distorting the visuals to the point it's unrecognizable, creating holes in chunks of the world. Some of the effects are minuscule, such as changing the color of your crosshair or changing the color of a single wall in the map. Flash nuking seems to be similar to the interlope commands in how it randomly changes and manipulates the game and its environment, with the key difference being that the interlope demos are pre-recorded, whereas you can directly interact with the environment while flash nuking. That is, unless your game doesn't crash. But the flash nuke discovery isn't all, as important developments have been made regarding the interlope commands as well. Throughout the Interloper series, we've seen a few Type 5 demos, and here we see a compiled list of all known Type 5 demos. Spooky Coast, a Half-Life 2 Type 5, Misty, another Half-Life demo that has been completely lost to time, Sea Strike, a Counter-Strike Source demo, Fortress, a TF2 demo, Eida, a Half-Life demo we've only caught a brief glimpse of during Eida and Machinima's Interloper investigation, Ellis Floor, a Left 4 Dead Type 5 demo we saw during the live stream, and some interesting newcomers. Eida's Ouija board demo, where the camera travels in the void for 2 hours, has been classified as a Type 5 demo nicknamed Long Trap, which sounds like a distant cousin of Springtrap, who's a lot like Springtrap, but he's really long. Another surprising new addition to the list is White Room, which is a demo Anomi generated during Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. The White Room demo takes place in this overgrown white brick room, and after searching through all of the maps in Half-Life 2, this room does not exist in the base game, which means this map was generated using the interlope command, something which we've seen it do before. There's also another new addition to the list, a Type 5 demo called Helmet Creek. This is a demo we haven't seen or heard of before. This Type 5 demo is fully recovered and takes place in a game we've only briefly seen in this series, Day of Defeat, a World War II Source Engine game. Here is that demo. If you've been paying attention to these videos, I can bet a whole lot of things just clicked in your head, like the first time I saw this. In episode 2, Anomi breached the limits of the interlope command and entered a strange state where he can manipulate the movement of a dynamic NPC by spawning a hint node, which the NPC approached. We've also seen these hint nodes being used on the flailing ragdoll in Long Trap. In Helmet Creek, we see what the dynamic editor looks like through the eyes of a dynamic NPC, being manipulated and tossed about by the player character before being deleted from existence. And the model of this player character might look familiar, especially if you're well-versed in Half-Life. This is the model used to represent Gordon Freeman in Half-Life 2. It's a mostly static, gray, mannequin-esque model used only as a placeholder in third person. This demo confirms the purpose of the DM editor is for controlling and manipulating these dynamic NPCs. However, there's another interesting thing to note. Throughout the entirety of the demo, you can see this small XYZ visual in the corner. We've seen this before. It was seen in Longtrap attached to the flailing ragdoll, and was also seen in one of the Half-Life Deathmatch demos. Whatever this visual is used to represent, it could be important. After the Helmet Creek Type 5, we are given more details on misty.wmv. Ever since it was first introduced in Episode 1, the Misty Type 5 demo has been a complete mystery, with this image being the only thing we know about its existence. But here, we are given some more details on Misty for the first time since the beginning of the series. It takes place on Train Station 3, has a singing body, and has off-tune music. Now this is all we know of its existence. Even if Misty still remains a mystery, there's been more important developments, and it's here I'd like to correct another mistake from my previous video. In Episode 4, after the Portal 2 incident, every time a Nomi tries to access the Interlope menu using Portal RTX, they are instead transported to this checkered void. I mistakenly believed that this happened on game startup just like the original Portal 1, which means a Nomi still has access to source games. Strangely enough, the name of this checkered map is INT menu, the map that the server showed as previously. The map is nothing but a single square floating in the void. There is no skybox, and you can simply walk off this square and fall into the abyss where the game will crash. You could recreate this map in Hammer in mere seconds. But there's more to this void than it seems. In Episode 4, while a Nomi stream was down, we caught a glimpse of a gray figure moving in the checkered void. I theorized that this figure was one of F-Sky's dynamic mannequin NPCs. And while I still hold that it was a pretty good guess, what this figure is should also look pretty familiar. It's the same model we saw manipulating the soldier in the Type 5 Day of Defeat demo. This model is what is used to represent the player in the DM editor. And that isn't all. In order to have access to this map, a Nomi needs to be running Portal RTX. And now we see why. By entering the Portal RTX tab, which is nothing but a white screen, they can move the mannequin around like a playable character. But that still isn't all. By right-clicking while controlling the mannequin, you can rotate what model the player uses. He switches from an error sign, to a T-posing engineer, to an info player start icon. This isn't the only time we've seen this either. If you remember back to when we explored the files of the TF2 Type 5 demo, you may remember this area of the map with the F-Sky logo and an info player start icon facing it. In the Hammer editor, this model is used to represent where the player will start when booting the map. But here, it serves a different purpose. We can see that the entity is named The Tool. Back then, I thought that this was supposed to be an insult towards F-Sky, saying that anyone who uses F-Sky servers is a tool. However, this meaning is much deeper than I anticipated. This entity is a literal tool used to control dynamic NPCs, spawning hint nodes and dragging them around like playthings. And this isn't the only shocking revelation. Do you remember Eida's video where they have an encounter with an entity that he called a crasher? The T-posing scout that flew through a wall and crashed his game? Let's rewind and look back towards the beginning of the clip. The model starts as an error sign, switches to the Gordon mannequin, back to the error sign, before finally settling on a T-posing scout. The crasher entity was the tool, something for controlling and manipulating dynamic NPCs. But why and how was it doing in Eida's copy of TF2? Was this entity being controlled by a player or by an AI? And why does it behave differently when the clip is placed in what I think is the source sample tool? And this revelation could also explain the bizarre heavy entities and T-posing zombies from previous Type 5s too. Perhaps these entities were also part of the DM editor. This revelation answers so many questions, but leaves us with so many more in its place. Nomi begins to experiment in this void. They try to record a demo in the Interlope menu map, but the demo he records refuses to play. For some reason, if you record a demo in the void, it completely breaks it. So Nomi experiments by recording a demo in a standard map, and the results will blow your large, wrinkly mind. While replaying a demo he recorded in Counter-Strike, Portal RTX recreates a dark gray version of the map and copies the demo inside of it. Somehow, these two separate games are able to send demo files to each other and recreate maps and demos in real time. If you remember from the Long Trap Type 5 demo, it showed that maps in the source engine can be connected by the void outside of maps. And Anomi now has the tools to explore this void in Portal RTX, and push the limits of the source engine. He boots up TF2 and tries to record a demo on TF2 flying through the boundaries of the map. However, this does not work because Portal RTX does not track where you are on the map, but rather the inputs you've made. So if Anomi uses the noclip command and presses W to clip through a wall, all that registers in Portal RTX was that Anomi pressed the W key and walked forward. With this limitation, exploring the void will be tougher than first expected. One workaround Anomi finds is using spectator mode, which allows you to travel through walls with no needs for cheats, allowing Portal RTX to explore the void. Anomi attempts this strategy 3 times on Dust 2, yielding no results. Another workaround Anomi finds is using gravity to explore the void. Anomi starts a demo recording while outside of the map, and uses a kill command, which causes the camera to fall into the void.
Oh my god. We actually hit something. Wow.
All of my speculation on maps being connected in the source engine is true. After 6.5 hours of falling in the 2-fort void, Anomi actually comes into contact with another map. With this discovery, it opens the door for more possible findings in the void. So Anomi boots up the Gary's mod map, GM Construct, a map that should be familiar to those of you who watched my first Interlope video. In that first video, I mentioned the Dark Room, a creepy ambient dark room that I found unnerving in GM Construct. But now, Anomi is searching far past the realm of that dark room into the infinite source engine abyss to find other hidden areas. While exploring GM Construct, Anomi finds 4 more zones. So counting the zone found under 2-fort, that's a total of 5 maps Anomi has found out of bounds, with each of these areas taking multiple hours to get to. With the discovery of these areas, episode 5 comes to an end. However, there's still one more revelation to be made. Remember Eida's video, "It's inside my computer, here's proof"? The video that shows us this bizarre program? There's something hiding in plain sight in this video that I never even noticed. A lot of information in this episode proved a few of my theories from the previous videos correct, such as the portal incident in episode 2 being the DM editor, and confirms the purpose of the DM editor is for manipulating and controlling these dynamic NPCs. But this video still leaves me with so many questions. For instance, watch what happens when Anomi records the demo that helps him find the zone under 2-fort. He stands outside of the map for a few seconds, motionless, before dying. We've seen this many times before. Anomi has just recorded a Type 2 demo. In my previous video, I theorized that Type 2 demos were the result of dynamic NPCs being captured by the Umbrella Men. But perhaps, it's possible these demos are being recorded by players. That's not all either. Earlier in the episode, while inputting the Flash Nuke cheat code on Ravenholm, during the part of the code where you input random actions, watch how Anomi behaves. Walking around, shooting at random, hitting a wall with a crowbar for no discernible reason. His behavior looks exactly like a Type 3 aimless wandering demo, which could mean that not all demos are randomly generated by AI. Maybe the Interlope command pulls from a pool of demos that human players have generated as well. Throughout the various episodes when Anomi generates a demo, sometimes they come with a date. Committed, date here. It's something I haven't taken note of before in my analysis, because I didn't have a theory for these before. But perhaps these demos have been saved to some sort of database. It would explain how a rogue party was able to sneak the F-Sky message into the map file for the TF2 Type 5, because Anomi isn't the first person to discover the Fortress demo. Someone else must have found it before and tampered with it. But I don't think Valve is the one with this database of Interloper demos. I have a feeling it's F-Sky, the Norwegian server hosting company behind a lot of what we've seen. Take an even closer look during this final portion of episode 5. We get a clearer look at the video, which helps us make out text on screen, and we can see that Eida Machinima's real name is Johan, a Scandinavian name. And who else do we know that's rooted in Scandinavia? F-Sky, the type of company to target someone who's getting too close to the truth and threatening them to the point of deleting their channel. Before, F-Sky seemed suspicious, but now, they're starting to seem downright malicious. But hey, that's just a theory. a lame theory. But despite that being the end of episode 5, we still haven't explored everything yet. And we'll start with an unexpected and shocking discovery. This is a random video compiling random Half-Life 2 videos from around the internet from 2005 to 2008. Amidst all the fraps, watermarks, and primitive forms of entertainment known as YouTube poops, lies something groundbreaking.
No fiddle. No fiddle.
This is misty.wmv, the Type 5 demo believed to have been lost to time. When I first saw this video, I was shocked, but I was also skeptical that this video could have been a game jacker. While game jacking sounds like the type of content you go to different websites for, what it actually means is someone making content to try and take control of someone else's ARG. For instance, if I made a fake Type 5 demo where the Umbrella Man goes to Undertale and tried to pass it off as a real Interloper video, I'd be game jacking. And when I first saw this clip of Misty, it almost seemed too good to be true. However, I remember that Anomi gave a list of details about Misty. It takes place in Train Station 3, check. It contains a singing body, check. And it also contains off-tune music, also check. This video meets all the criteria of being Misty and was uploaded weeks prior to Interloper 5. Therefore, it must be a part of the ARG. Anamide confirmed this a few days later by uploading the demo to their own channel, which means the lost Type 5 demo has finally been recovered, which means Eida is the last unknown Type 5 demo. In the Misty demo, a civilian dynamic NPC is seen dragging another model into a room. The model he drags is called a cheeple, presumably a portmanteau of the words cheap and people. A cheeple is a civilian model that is used for when civilians are seen from far away. Because of the model's lower resolution and polygon count, they're easier to render and improve performance. This model was not made to be seen this closely. It is also the singing body that was mentioned earlier. Now, they don't quite have the voice of an angel, but the body constantly repeats a jumbled phrase I can't quite make out. The dynamic NPC isn't a fan of the singing and slams down cinder blocks onto the body in an attempt to get it to shut up. My theory as to why the dynamic NPC went through all the trouble of dragging the Cheeple into this room and throwing bricks at it is because this Cheeple serves as some sort of alarm system, and the dynamic NPC is trying to get it to shut down. Because after the singing ragdoll finally stops, we hear the Umbrella Man sound cue. The one we've heard multiple times throughout the series. The dynamic NPC has been caught. The Cheeple turns towards the NPC and they are dragged towards the ceiling and eventually teleported outside of the map. You can hear strange audio of Dr. Kleiner's voice play multiple times.
No fiddle. No fiddle fiddle.
In the previous Interloper video I made, I talked about how error signs and missing textures are used to represent missing models and textures respectively. And this Dr. Kleiner voice line is the audio equivalent of a missing texture. Here is a video from the Portal series that illustrates this.
No fiddlesticks. What now?
Perhaps this voice line is representative of the NPC trying to cry out for help, but since there's no audio files for the NPC, it just cries out Dr. Kleiner's voice line. Before, we've only seen NPCs get trapped in the Skybox, but here, we actually get to see the aftermath of an Umbrella Man attack. The NPC in the Skybox is slowly swarmed by multiple Umbrella Men, and the NPC begins to flail and twitch around in a manner we've seen before in the mannequin in the F-Sky ad, and also the ragdoll from Longtrap. In the final frames of the video, the Umbrella Man drags the NPC to the camera, revealing they've been turned into another Cheeple model. Going by what we see in the demo, it looks like these Cheeple models are dynamic NPCs that have been transformed into some kind of alarm system that alerts the Umbrella Men to the presence of dynamic NPCs. Before, I assumed that Umbrella Men were mindless drones that serve to capture dynamic NPCs, but they're beginning to seem much more intelligent, setting traps to catch their prey and observing Eida during the Crasher incident. After the demo ends, in the developer console you can make out a message reading, "Could not find table, dynamic models." Now this could be something normal for the source engine, but to me, it looks like we finally know what the DM and DM editor stands for. Dynamic Model Editor, with the NPCs it creates being the dynamic models, capable of fluid movement and fully able to interact with their environment. But that's still not all. In the version of Misty uploaded to Anomi's YouTube channel, in the corner of the video, you can see a URL for a website called Project Skybox. And the URL actually works, taking you to a website and unlocking the next piece of the puzzle. The About Us section of the website reads, Project Skybox is a small collective of video game and internet enthusiasts turned digital archaeologists. We hunt down and try to solve various mysteries that have either become incredibly obscure or borderline lost to time. Many believe everything online stays in the collective conscious forever, but this is simply not the case. Every day, stories, memories, and tales are lost and forgotten. Threads are deleted, and people simply forget. Our mission is to find that which has been completely forgotten and bring it back to life, so to speak. So it looks like Anomi has joined a collective with the goal of searching for lost media in relation to the Interloper mystery, and clicking on the tab labeled Interloper shows us their first big find. If you remember back to the first episode of the Interloper series, it started with a forum thread uploaded to halflife2.net, and Project Skybox has recovered a large portion of that thread. It starts with the discovery of the Umbrella Man graffiti in Ravenholm that also kicked off Anomi's investigation. Initially, the OP is laughed off as looking into something too deep and is told it's probably nothing. You're literally analyzing the pixels as I predicted, lol, nothing to see here guys, go home, you're drunk. Dude, it's basically the same image, lol. We're really gonna be analyzing every pixel in the game if we keep getting threads like this. One of the forum users, named J-Man, sums up the corrupted decal file as a standard corruption and brushes it off. That is, until 4 months later. Okay, what the fuck? Big what the fuck here, guys. First off, sorry for the necro. Turns out OP was really onto something here. Not even kidding, this isn't a joke. J-Man discovers the interlope cancel commands and shares it with the forum, and they start to use the commands to generate demos. One of the forum users seems to generate a demo involving a death scene for Barney from Half-Life. What the freak? I just typed this in and watched a cutscene of Barney flailing around. It was super creepy. What the freak was that? Then why is it playing cutscenes that aren't in the game like a Barney death scene? Perhaps this Barney death scene is a Type 5 demo that we haven't seen yet. If it was a Type 5, this user wouldn't be the only one to generate one, as this thread is the origin of Helmet Creek, Misty, and Spooky Coast. One of the users in this thread is named 7Local Source. This user would find the Misty Type 5, download, and upload it in a Machinima compilation. However, Much of the later parts of the forum thread have been lost to time, which leaves us to guess on what happened later. Other than the recovered thread, there's also a section on the website about something called Digivisions, which I'll read out now. Digivisions was a CGI and computer graphics conference that ran from 1980 to 1993 in various locations throughout North America and Europe. Digivisions was a somewhat closed-door conference restricted to professionals to show what they were working on and what their teams had achieved in the growing field of computer graphics. Conference locations were often small venues spanning about 3 to 4 days of talks, showcases, and promotional videos for up-and-coming technology. During the Digivisions 1991 conference, near the end of the third day of showcases, a small CGI development startup had slated a 50-minute time slot for something called Showcase 22. Note, it was probably not the 22nd showcase of the event. Most of what we know about Showcase 22 comes from second-hand accounts of the showcase and some rumored remarks about its presence at Digivisions. The showcase was created by a small European company called Fortu, exact country unknown, who couldn't attend the conference, which was in California. The showcase consisted of a set of tapes, which was given to the organizers of Digivisions to play at the 4 p.m. time slot for their showcase. Secondhand accounts describe a strange video being shown, with basically no information given to explain any of it. The video was broken up into sections, separated by black screens with white text, written in all capital letters and in 3 languages. The demonstrations would quickly follow each title card. The demonstrations themselves were described as weird, avant-garde, dated, and creepy/unsettling. One second-hand account described it as decades out of date. It was made particularly stranger by the fact that 4.2 provided no information about what was being shown. Initially, there was only a group of 5 people or so watching the presentation, but eventually, a group of about 30 people converged on the conference to see what everyone was talking about. After about 20 minutes, the organizers turned off the tape following a particularly unsettling demonstration being played, called Lilico. The showcase was subsequently cut short from there. Later, the organizers and a few guests looked over the tape and found that 4.2 actually sent 3 tapes, meant to be played in a sequence. They later determined that the organizers accidentally played tape 2. Altogether, the 3 tapes actually accounted for 90 minutes of demonstration, with the first tape only offering a surface-level explanation for any of it in a sequence called The Anatomy of a World. When they tried to reach out to 4.2 for an explanation, they got no response, as the company seemed unreachable, likely due to language barriers. Project Skybox is trying to hunt down this footage, as we believe some copies of the tapes are out in circulation, and we also believe a few industry professionals and Digivision staff may have digitized the footage as recently as 2008. The current status of Showcase 22 is unknown. If you have any information or footage of Showcase 22, please reach out to Anamide. Along with this story, these images are attached, seemingly the only pieces of media related to the Lilico tape left. This page tells the story of an obscure tape at a convention in the 90s. Initially, this story seems completely unrelated to Interloper. That is, until the small details start to line up. The Lilico tape that unnerved the guests at Digivisions was created by a company called Fortu, a small European company that creates unsettling and experimental CGI technology. The events of this convention seem oddly familiar to another European tech company we've come to know in the series, F-Sky, the server hosting service we've seen on Eida's channel and hidden in the demo files. F-Sky has also created avant-garde and creepy presentations for their own software as well, such as the Make Face demo or the Dancing Mannequin ad. It's very likely that F-Sky is Fortu, or at least, what it would grow to become. Fortu, a company that strives to create an artificial world, sees the source engine in the DM tool and uses it to create a server hosting service with a dark side, possibly gathering the data of its users and targeting anyone who gets too close to the truth. In my first video, I theorized that Valves were the ones behind the bizarre happenings related to the Interlope command, but with F-Sky seeming more and more malicious as time goes on, it's likely that they are the ones behind entities like the Umbrella Men. And the true motives and goals of F-Sky is likely something that is going to be explored as the series continues, which once more leaves us waiting for more information. There's some smaller details that leave me curious as well. If you have a keen eye, you may have noticed this XYZ visual keep popping up. It has appeared in a Type 2 demo, appeared on the Ragdoll in Long Trap, was in the corner of Long Creek, and during Anomi's investigation of GM Construct, you can see a clip of him recreating it with storage containers. This visual is a recurring motif in the series, just like checkerboard floors, and that is not by coincidence. Similarly, at various points you can see a lighting bug occur during demos in the opening Flash Nuke demonstration. You may be familiar with this bug if you're a frequent viewer of Lazy Purple.
I used a program to remove literally every light from the map, and you won't believe it! These lights are Satan!
This is a Source Filmmaker bug, which might lead one to believe this is unintentional on Anomi's part when creating episodes of the series. However, Anomi is way too adept at Source Filmmaker, and this issue is way too easy to fix for these flashing lights to be accidental. These flashing lights, just like the XYZ graphic, could be very important going forward, and already it links the Flash Nuke glitch to Type 5 demos. And I'd like to end my analysis with a very peculiar observation I made regarding the Digivision story. The story says that the Lilico tape was composed of various clips broken up by a black screen with white text written in 3 languages. In nearly every installment of the Interloper series, Anomi uses this screen to break up segments of the video. A black screen with white text composed of 3 languages. Is this a reference to the tape by Anomi, or is he more involved in this story than he's letting on? Only time will tell. And that may not be very long, as November is coming up, the month where Anomi will once more gain access to the Interlope commands, and give us the opportunity to learn more about the DM tool, dynamic NPCs, and the people behind them. And we'll finally get to see what happens when the Umbrella Man goes to Undertale.
I feel bigger. Good.